Okay, so today's topic will really be just called toxicity. All right. So this is something that I've been wanting to cover on because everyone always talks about this person is toxic or that person is toxic or we should cancel this person. But what does toxicity actually mean, right? What does toxic actually mean when someone says that this person is toxic, let's cancel them, or this environment is toxic? So what does it mean? So we're going to get right into that. But before we get into that, right, I just want to introduce this company. It's called Quorse. All right, Quorse, basically what we do, we are a training search engine. So what is a training search engine? Basically, when you want to look for any sort of training, right, instead of just asking your HR, you actually can look for it directly yourself. You can actually go online, you can Google or, Yahoo it, and you search for Quorse, Quorse. Okay, so basically we are a training search engine and you can look for all sorts of training there. But today we're going to focus on this topic, which is toxicity, or basically toxic people. All right. Okay, so one of the things we're going to look at is actually three areas. One is we're going to define it. Okay. The other one is we're going to deal and discover. Okay, so when we talk about toxicity, we're going to go on three areas, especially we're going to define what toxicity is. We're going to look how to deal with it, and we're going to look about discovering. Okay, so what do I mean by this is defining. So let's start with what is toxicity. Okay. So let's say this person right here. Okay. So there are many things that could make this person toxic. So when we look at a toxic person, how do we define a toxic person? Maybe I can bring it a bit closer for you guys to see. Okay. Okay, so now each and every one of us, we have toxic traits within us, right? Each and every one of us have negativity inside us. We know none of us is perfect at any rate. But what makes us actually toxic? How do we actually stop that? How do we define, basically, like I said, how do we define a toxic person? Well, there are many areas, but one of the things is, first one we talk about is negativity. Negativity. Now, like I said, everyone has some level of negativity in them. So how do you know that you are actually going above and beyond? It's in terms of your actions. For example, right, the way you think, the way you talk, the way you handle situations, right? What is the percentage of negativity that you are portraying in that current situation? If there are some level of negativity, for example, let's say you are actually, going to do an errand and you actually have to drive there, but your car breaks down. So do you just stay in that zone for the entire time? So that shows how negative your thinking could be if you let that affect your entire day. So negativity is definitely one of the traits of a toxic personality. But like I mentioned, all this has to be above the average amount, above what is your normal sort of thinking, right? The next one is cynical. So cynical could be as simple as the way you think, right? Of this person, the toxic person, how do they think? So if, let's say, they go to a retail shop and someone greets them, hi, good morning. Or if, let's say, a waiter is being extra friendly, saying things like, hi, how can I help you? And giving really good service. A cynical person would then think, oh, okay, this person is only being nice to me because they are paid to do so. They are paid to be nice to me, or they are paid. This person just wants a tip. So that kind of thinking, right, is from a toxic character, meaning that when someone does something nice for them, instead of thinking that, this person is being genuinely nice, is making an effort to service me well, to be kind to me, they will not think that way. They would think that this person actually has an ulterior motive, that they're only being nice because they want something in return. Why? Because a toxic person themselves, when they do something nice for someone, they have an ulterior motive. There is no, I do for you and then I don't expect anything back. No, they expect you to actually, repay them in some form of way. All right. So that is one of the traits of a toxic character is cynical. Next, we go to dramatic. So why? So you cannot say, oh, if I'm just a loud and happy person, what is that got to do with being toxic? Now, toxic people, when I say dramatic, they make their life like maybe like a Korean show. They like to, like, okay, if you watch a Korean or you watch a Korean soap opera or you watch soap opera in general, every episode there are bad things happening because the evil person is plotting out some scheme, or some relatives is trying to do something that's not very nice. So the entire drama is just filled with a lot of negative situations. And there are some people, especially toxic people in this case, they like to be dramatic in things, right? So for example, if let's say they can't get their way, they would say things like, oh, my whole day is ruined. They would make you feel guilty. Or they would say dramatic things like, oh, might as well I die. What's the point of, doing this? You don't care about me. So in that sense, that is how a toxic person is dramatic. They would turn simple things into chaotic messes. For example, if let's say you promise to take a person out, it could be your partner, it could be a friend. You promise to take them out during the weekend, but you can't because maybe you have a last minute work engagement. So they would dramatize the whole thing. They would say, oh, you are not taking me out because you don't love me anymore. Yeah, you don't love me anymore. You actually are seeing someone else, or you put work above me. So this is how they dramatize simple situations, because they actually have this thing, and they like causing negativity. So toxic characteristics like to cause negativity in that sense, as we mentioned here, negativity. So they showcase it in sometimes being dramatic. That is one of the ways. All right. Now the very famous one is manipulation. Oh, sorry. Manipulative. So obviously everyone knows that being manipulative is a very, very toxic trait. So how they do things like that is they could actually make you feel very guilty. Whenever you're with them, you would feel very guilty, in the sense of when they ask you for something, right? They will say, "Oh, okay, let's can you take me here? There's an event happening and everything." And if you can't, like going back to the case study I was mentioning, if you can't, they will make you feel like you are completely responsible for, not taking them there, and they would make you feel very guilty. So the number one ways you can tell if you are being manipulated, or number one thing that manipulative people like to do is that they like to make you feel, they like to make you do things you don't like to do, right? So you can say like, oh, what do you mean? If I don't like to do it, means I don't like to do it. No, they would actually they are able to make you do things that you don't like to do, and you would feel absolutely terribly guilty if you don't do it. You feel very forced. So for example, right, like I mentioned just now, let's say a girlfriend asks her boyfriend, there is this event that I've been wanting to go for a very long time. Can you fetch me there? And she's getting all ready for it and everything. And her boyfriend has to work, right? So to the boyfriend, he feels that I have to work because I have to take care of you in the future, so I have to put this first, right? But instead of feeling that way, the girlfriend will completely make the boyfriend feel that, the reason why you're not taking me there is because you don't put me first, you don't love me. So that is one of the ways that they can do that. And manipulation is not only with boyfriend, girlfriends. It could be parents, it could be colleagues, it can even be bosses. So how can it be bosses? For example, they can actually contact you during the weekend, And although it is your right to have that space to yourself, they will make you feel that if you do not listen to them or follow what they say, or or give in to them to listen to follow their orders during the weekend, that you feel that your job is going to be jeopardized. How many of you actually feel that when your boss texts you during the weekend, and if you don't answer, that something bad's gonna happen? He's gonna probably be pissed at you for the next few days. He's probably gonna, probably don't like you as much. So then you freak out. So these are actually ways that people manipulate. Toxic people, how they manipulate others. All right. So other than these things, like as though these things are bad enough, there is way more traits that a toxic person has. Okay, so let me see if I can kind of squeeze it in here. The next one is calculative. Now, when I say calculative, you're wondering what do you mean by calculative. Basically, it means that whenever a toxic person wants to do something for you, right, it is never for free. Whether, like I mentioned, whether it could be big, it could be small, they will use it against you, right? So what I mean by use it against you is, for example, let's say it could be something as simple as you're going home and it's raining, and this toxic person has an umbrella, and she's like, hey, I want to lend you this umbrella because it's raining, poor thing, I'll give you this umbrella. But let's say the next day you give her back the umbrella, you're appreciative, and for example, let's say you bought some snacks for your other colleagues. She will make you feel that, oh, how could you not share anything with me? I helped you, I lent my umbrella to you. So it could be something big, it could be something small, right? Big, maybe they want to lend their car to you for a week, or they loan you some money. Trust me, whatever a toxic person does something for you, they would definitely calculate it. They'll be very calculative. Whenever they ask you for something, they would remind you of the things that they have done for you, right? If they ask you for a favor. So when you ask someone for a favor, you are supposed to let the person be able to choose whether they want to help you or not, based on that person's capabilities at that time. But not a toxic person. A toxic person will, when they ask you for a favor, they are not expecting a no. Because the moment you say no to them, they would use everything in their arsenal against you. They will remind you of all the things that they've done for you, how they've helped you. They will do that. And even if you have a logical reason to not help them, they would remember that, and you can actually see that the next time when you ask them for help, they will not be too willing. They will make up something similar. They would just want to get back at you. So these are toxic people. So that is what I mean by calculative. They calculate every good deed that they have done for you, and they will use it against you. All right? Okay, so the next one is very popular, is never, I'm so sorry guys if you can't read this, but basically never wrong. Okay, not that they're never wrong, but they think that they're never wrong. So it could be anything. It could be, again, something big, something small. One thing about toxic people, it doesn't matter whether the situation is a big or a small issue, it will be treated the same way. So what do I mean by never wrong? It could be, for example, something very simple as maybe they left something out of the fridge and it got spoiled, like maybe a parent or a spouse or a friend, they will say things like, why are you making such a big deal? Why are you making such a big deal that I left something out? If you want to just go buy another bottle of milk or something, So, but that's not the point. The point is not because obviously you know that you could buy another bottle of milk, but the character behind it, a toxic person, would just be, you know what? No, I'm just going to make a big deal about it. So again, it comes back to a lot of this where cynical, dramatic. So let's say, again, I talk about you left, let's say, a bottle of milk outside and it turns spoiled. So as you can see, first, again, with the negativity, instead of thinking that, oh, this person probably was busy, overlooked this, situation, that is why, but they think of it in a negative sense. They think of it, oh, this person left the milk out on purpose, even though it doesn't make any sense, but they think this way. They would think, oh, this person left it out on purpose, maybe couldn't care less. Maybe he was lazy, he was a lazy person, that's why he or she did that. And then again, with the cynical, they will think that, that this person probably do it on purpose, or that they're lazy and have a don't care attitude and they should be punished for it. Okay, again, Like I'm going through the whole thing, dramatic, right? So if let's say a friend or a spouse or a family member left out of milk, one of the things you could do is you could just order a new one. But they won't do that. They'll probably be dramatic about it, be like, oh, now I have to go all the way out and get it. It's so troublesome. I want to have breakfast. You're ruining my breakfast. So that is one of the ways that they can be dramatic. Okay? And again, manipulative, calculative. So all these are toxic traits that a person can do. So as you can see, that situation with the spoiled milk, it's something so small and they can make it into something so big and so negative. So you cannot imagine if it is a big situation, they would definitely, be way more, in terms of all these traits, the situation be way more worse if it was a big thing. Like for example, let's say they loan you a car and you probably got a scratch on it or a dent. All this will come in like way heavier. All right. So the next one, so going back to never wrong, not only do they think that they're never wrong, apologizing for them is very difficult. The idea of just saying sorry, because they feel that that they feel something maybe deep down that they don't want to say sorry, or they feel that they're too good to say sorry. So again, this is a toxic person thinking, never wrong. Very hard for them to say sorry. They would actually blame it on a lot of things. All right. So these traits are again part of they are part of toxic traits. Now, I'm just saying this in terms of a toxic person's traits. Some people could be really good. There are good people out there, obviously, and some of them may have some of these traits. So I'm not saying that just because you have one or two of these traits that you are completely a toxic person. No, I'm saying that these are toxic traits because we are trying to define what is a toxic person. Okay? So a toxic person, again, has a lot of areas that they're toxic, not just one or two. Okay, so again, another one that's very obvious is nice when needed lah. So, do you remember that when you were a kid and probably you want something from your parents? So how would you go about it? You'd be cute. You would ask your mom and dad, "Mom, Dad, can I have this?" Or let's say you want something from your boyfriend or girlfriend. You will ask them, "Hey, honey, I really like this dress. I like this earring." So what do? You act nice, right? You act nice when you want something, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But how they do it is, you can actually see it very clearly. And for some of us, we might find it hard to see, especially when it's someone that we love or care about. We maybe try to ignore that fact. But a toxic person actually uses their niceness to get things from you. They would actually, like for example, let's say again, when I talk about manipulation, toxic people know how to make you do things that you don't want to do. Right? And how do they do that? At first, they will say things nicely. They will say, "Oh, please help me, or please join me to go drinking. I don't want to go alone. Please join me." And you're like, "Oh, I really don't feel like doing that today. I actually don't feel so well, but oh, please, can you please help me? Blah, blah, blah." Okay. So let's say you say, "Okay, you know what? Even though I don't feel well, I don't feel so great, I don't really have the mood for drinking, I'll just join you." But when you reach the place, a toxic person wouldn't give a damn if you were feeling crappy, if you were hungry, if you were actually feeling worse. They won't care because they already got their objective. They got you to come with them. That's what they wanted. So they will be nice at that point. But a genuine person, let's say, okay, if you're telling me, "Oh, sometimes I ask my friends to do things, but I don't mean to do bad things to them." Like I said, see how you go about it. So for example, let's say again, I ask you, "Hey, could you join me for drinks? I feel a bit down today," and you say, "Okay." So a good person, when they bring you to, let's say, the pub to have drinks and to relax, they will also pay attention to you. They will see, "Hey, are you comfortable? Are you finding it? How they will actually pay attention to you if they're a good person." And by paying attention to you, you will find them asking you, "Hey, are you okay? You know what? If you want to leave, I'm okay. Then we can just stop. Or do you feel like this place is too noisy?" They will actually check on you. Now, a toxic person, like I said, once they get the thing, they don't care. They don't care. And in fact, they will be angry if they find that you are behaving miserably. They'll say, "Why are you doing this? I told you I was having a bad day, and then now you are at the pub with me, and then you are making face there. It's very difficult, I'll talk to this handsome boy also. You are like, bothering me." You're making a face, who wants to come and talk to us? So again, they are only nice when they need something from you, and you can actually tell. But why do you keep falling for it? Because again, in your heart, you're thinking, I want to keep this relationship. I don't want to spoil anything. And then you start to doubt yourself. So that is how toxic people kind of like do things like that to have this toxic traits and actually do bad things to you. This is how they started. Okay. So moving on to the next one, which is ulterior motive. Okay, guys, I know, sorry, my handwriting. Okay, so ulterior motive, right? So just now I mentioned about being nice when they need something from you. So another toxic trait is that it's actually ulterior motive. Which what I mean by that is whatever they do for you again has a motive. So like just now that case study I talked about, asking you to go to the pub with them, right? Their only motive actually is to have a good time and to meet someone, but they don't want to go do it alone and they want to do it with you. So again, the motive is not to, like she will say like, oh, come with me because I feel down, I feel everything. But the motive is not that. The motive is something else. Or let's say, for example, she likes this guy, okay, and she wants you to go with her. But she'll tell you, hey, let's go to this particular place, I want to relax. But actually her motive is something else. So basically they're using you. A toxic person uses you to get what they want. That is what I mean by ulterior motive. So again, today we're talking about toxicity because again, every time we always hear on media now, oh, toxic this, toxic that. So what does it truly mean? So this is what it is. So now we are under this area, which is define. We are defining what is a toxic person. So again, let's run through before we go on to the next, to how to deal with them. Oh, by the way, if you guys have any questions about toxic people in your life or how to deal with them and everything, feel free to ask and then I'll help answer whatever questions you may have. Just feel free to ask. Okay? So again, you can just ask me if you have any questions about toxicity. Okay, now that you define what is a toxic person, I'll just run through like really quick. So again, they are, okay, sorry, one more thing. Again, every one of us, we definitely have some of this. We definitely have some of this in our character. But that does not mean we are toxic either. Like I said, it's the percentage. What is the percentage of all this? I will talk about it in our discover section to actually discover, are we toxic? But right now, I'm talking about a toxic person. So a toxic person, what are the signs of, for example, again, they're negative. A lot of the way when they talk, whatever they do, everything about them, I'm talking about majority of the time, they are negative. All right? Cynical, dramatic, manipulative, calculative, never wrong, never want to apologize. Okay, nice only when they need you, and they always have an ulterior motive. It sounds very dramatic for me to say that they always have an ulterior motive, but if you feel that when you hang out with certain people, right, when you hang out with people with these traits, you will realize that you are completely exhausted after hanging out with them. When you go home or, when they leave or you leave the premises, right, you actually feel like, oh, this is so exhausting. Why do I feel so mentally exhausted with this person? Why? Because when you are with them, you are coping with all this. You are not the main character, they are there. You are just a sub role for them. So there are some situations where these are parents or spouses or families, and really pitiful for those people around them because they are suffering with this person with these traits consistently, right? So we'll get to this next, which is how to deal with them. So we have done the defining of a toxic person. Okay, now we're going to talk about how do we deal. So I'm looking at 3 areas. Okay, we'll take green for this one. We're talking about work, people at work. Then we talk about family. Friends. And then also partners. So we have now come to the section of how do we deal with toxic people at the work, family members, friends, and partners. How do we deal with this kind of people? Oh, okay. What makes people become toxic? Hi, Sydney. What makes people become toxic? Okay, there are actually a lot of reasons why people can become toxic. It could be, first of all, their environment, their families. Some of these are characteristics from the parents that's brought down to them actually. Sometimes it could be they were so innocent and nice and they were just beaten up by society that they decided, you know what, I'm done being nice, I want to be nasty now. But that's not how you should deal with difficult situations in life. So basically, to answer your question, Sydney, about what makes people toxic, is like I mentioned, environment. It could be family as in the parents' traits come down to their children. Environment in terms of situation, or it could be honestly a person could be born with these traits, right? It's just like some people could be born slightly smarter than someone else. But that is why I said every single person, we have those toxic traits in us. If we feed these toxic traits and let it become more aggressive, then we will then become a toxic person. I hope I answered that question. Okay, Hui Bui. Okay, I hope I pronounced it correctly. Hui. Is it mean that we should avoid these toxic people? Runaway mode. I guess, okay, runaway mode. Okay, yeah, we're going to talk about this now. Basically, we're going to talk about how should we, so I'm actually coming to this part where we're going to deal with these toxic people in these areas. How do we deal with them, right? Okay, so let's start with, so Huibi, I'm going to be replying your answer here, your question here, sorry. So let's focus on work. Let's start with work first. So let's say you have toxic people at work, all right? So typical toxic people is what? Boss and co-workers. Okay. So definitely when you are studying or working, you're going to be dealing with, you definitely will come across a toxic boss or toxic coworker. So how should you deal with this kind of people? Okay, so let's start with coworkers first. Okay, or whatever. Okay, I want to ask is, what is your objective? When you go to work, what is your objective? You want to do well, correct? You want to get promoted, you want to get a big fat salary. So at the workplace, what is your objective, right? To do well, okay? So let's say you want to do well and now you're dealing with toxic boss or toxic co-workers. So what should you do? Okay, again, always ask yourself, focus on what you want. So let's say you want to get promoted. So what does this mean? You have to work with these people to achieve this, right? So first thing first is always tell yourself when you go to work or when you're when you go to work, like basically, right? People always say things like, when you go to work, you're not there to make friends, you're there to work. That is true in some sense. Why? Because when you make friends at work, it becomes a bit dangerous, because if you are emotionally invested in a person, and if that person puts you below what they want to achieve, you'll be very hurt and you'll find it difficult to work with them. This is why people also say, don't eat and shit in the same place. I'm so sorry to say that. Don't eat and shit in the same place. Basically, that term is more for like, don't date people at your workplace, because it's dangerous. Because, in the end, if the relationship, whether it is a platonic relationship or not, at the end of the day, when the relationship ties are severed, right, it is very hard to work with that person, correct? If you let's say if you're dating, let's say your coworker or even your boss or whatever, and you break up and you have to go to work the next day and see that person, and you have to listen to that, especially if it's a boss. After you fight with your boss, you have to listen to them. So not that I'm saying you can't date at work. A lot of people have met their spouses at work, but I'm just saying that there's also some reason not to do so. Okay, so again, let's get back to this. So so look at your objective. So let's say your objective is to be promoted or to basically do well in the office. Okay, so when you use this as your main objective, right? So what do you need to do to get this? Obviously, you need to work well. You need to do your job properly. Sometimes, so when you talk about the technical part of your work, right? Okay, the technical part of your work, you don't have to bother because that's on you, how well you do the job. Now, there are some aspects where you have to start working with these people, start working with your boss, start working with your co-worker. So, how do you do that? First of all, let's say you meet a toxic person at work. Always be neutral. Always be, but neutral, but also friendly, right? If the person is rude, choose to be the better person and reply politely. Because if this person is rude, this person may also be rude to a lot of other people as well. So people will know that this person is rude. By you being rude or being aggressive with them, people will look at you instead of that person, right? Especially if that person's in the company for a long time. Okay, so again, so let's say you have a toxic boss. So what I would recommend is, okay, other than just dealing with them lah, okay, number one, you focus on your outcome. Have a game plan. Have a game plan. What I mean is, so first, okay, let me make it a bit more neat. Sorry. Okay. So okay, first focus on your objective, which is to, let's say, promoted. Okay, so now you look at your game plan. Meaning, what do you need to do to achieve this, right? Which is obviously to work well with your boss, work well with your co-workers. Okay, so let's say your boss is toxic. So you see, when you join a company, you build a character. You build your character basically. What I mean is that, let's say when you go into office, right? If you start off as a shy person and you don't talk much, within the first month, everyone will look at you and say, this person is a shy person. This person is a loud person. This person is a hardworking person. This person I can bully. This person I cannot bully. You already create a character for yourself when you join to work. And that characteristic, people will actually look at you and they will define you by that. Okay, so I suggest, right, when you start work, okay, I know this is a bit off topic, but when you start work, right, you have to come out of your comfort zone a bit, and you have to decide what do I want people to look at me as. Do I want people to think that I'm quiet and I cannot give answers at a meeting and I cannot give good ideas? By you not show, by you, so like I said, you cement your character when you join the office, when you behave a certain way for about a month. People will then look at you that particular way. Okay, so sorry, going back to this. So okay, game plan promoted. So okay, why do I talk about cementing the idea? So let's say you have a toxic boss. So let's say the toxic boss is like messaging you during the weekends, asking you to work overtime and all this. So in your mind, you're like, oh, I need to do all this to impress him so I can get promoted. Not really true. Okay? First of all, you need to see the culture. When you join the office, is everybody doing the same thing? Is everybody working late? Is everybody, So okay, what is your objective? Let's say you join a very big famous company. Okay, you want to work for this company because this company is going to look really good on your resume. So you want to have, so the objective is you want this on your resume also, and of course you would like to be promoted lah. Okay, so you join this company and you realize everyone's working long hours. Everyone is being talked to on the weekend. There's no work-life balance. So again, why I said, instead of looking at all the personality and characteristics, why do I talk about what is your objective first? Okay, if your objective is to have this company in your CV and everyone is doing this everyone is in this culture, you have to somehow also fit in, but you don't overdo it. You don't overdo it, meaning that you can be a bit firm. For example, let's say they like to stay back late. They like to stay back at 8, 9 p.m., but you don't want to. I mean, you don't have to have a reason not to want to. So how can you go about it? Number one, I ask yourself, when you are there from 9 to 6, are you giving it your all? Are you giving it 100%? Can your boss and colleagues see that from 9 to 6, you're doing everything properly, efficiently, and fast? Or do you go around, go chit-chat, have some breaks, go and smoke, go have, eat some tea time or whatever, some snacks, or, chit-chat with some colleagues, and then, 6 o'clock, bye-bye. If you want to prove that you should be able to go back on time, you need to show your bosses and your colleagues, hey, from 9 to 6, I don't play around. I really give my 100%. Okay, let's say everyone is also doing this. Okay, how you can go about it is You don't lah, go back at 6. Everybody go back at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, you go back at 6, people will sure talk one, right? Because they feel, why you can do, why I have to stay back? But especially if you're new. So what you can do is, you adjust a bit lah. You go back around 6:30. You don't be so, on the dot. You go back around 6:30. You go back sometimes around 7. But that's it. Don't any more than that. Alright? But again, if your objective is to be promoted, you think about it, like if your team is full of hardworking people that stay late and you want to go back early and expect to be promoted, if you are the boss, will you promote yourself or not? You have to do something that is better than everyone else in order for you to achieve this, correct or not? So that is why I asked you, what is your objective? If it's to be promoted, you have to put in the effort. Now you say, okay, work-life balance. Let me tell you this, in your 20s when you are working, all right, work-life balance, you can achieve it, but you cannot achieve, let's say promoted, you want to be manager by 30. Especially if you're in a company where everyone works hard. Okay, if you say, okay, I can, or another way you can go about it, if you still want work-life balance, you have to be damn efficient, so, pardon the language, sorry. You have to be damn efficient from 9 to 6. And you have to be able to do things that your other colleagues cannot do even when they stay until 9 p.m. Right? Because that makes sense to me. So like I said, if you want to, that's why I said there was game plan. What is your game plan to achieve this? So why I'm saying all this is because this is how you then put yourself towards your boss. If your boss can see that during your 9 to 6 that you are giving it your all, you have done things that those people who stay until 9 also cannot do. Trust me, you want to go back at 6 o'clock, he will not ask, Okay? And like I said, a bit of give and take. A bit of give and take. For example, right? Let's say your boss has an urgent question on the weekend. Answer that question. If it's an urgent question. Or you can answer and then leave it as that. Okay? If your boss starts to go on and on and on, you can be like, you can be firm and you can say things like, okay, let's say, do you email this urgent email to this client? Do you send it already? Yes, I sent it. Okay, then how about da. Again, like I said, focus back on your objective. How much time are you giving your boss actually? Is his question 5 minutes long? Is it 10 minutes long? Is it 1 hour long? If it's 5 to 10 minutes, don't you think that there's some leeway you can give, right? But if he starts to say things like, hey, I need you to come back on the weekend. Again, how many times is he asking you to come back on the weekend? And also why? Is he asking you to come back on the weekend because he feels that you are capable and he can only trust you to do this particular work? Okay, so let's say if he's not, he just wants to bully you and he wants to bully everyone. Again, always remember when people complain about their work, right? You are not forced to be in that company. I'm not saying that it's not easy to get jobs, right? I'm not saying that you should just jump ship also the moment you are suffering, okay? But you are not bound there unless you are tied up because of some sponsorship lah. But you are not bound to a particular company. If you feel that the overall culture is so toxic, let's say all the bosses are toxic, even the HR, the HODs, your colleagues, everyone is toxic, right? So again, back to your objective. Is this a company that you want to work for and get promoted on the long term? Then you have to see how to figure it out, right? But if let's say you're like, oh, never mind, I just want to have the company name on my CV, just on my CV, then put it up for 1 year. Take it as a training. This 1 year, let them bully me, let them do, I will do properly, ignore the toxicity. And the best way to do it is, if let's say you want to keep working and ignore this kind of toxic traits, number one, you have to be firm, but you are nice about it. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be rude to people or scold people if they are bullying you. You know how to be professional and be firm about it. If your boss talks to you 5-10 minutes, like I said, 5-10 minutes you can give your boss. But if your boss is going on for an hour and then you be like, you can just be like, oh boss, actually I'm in the middle of a family gathering. Is it okay if not urgent, can I continue this back on Monday? Because sometimes these bosses have so many people giving in to what they want, they forget. And they will start to, to think that it's normal for everyone to contact me during the weekend. So you can educate them because maybe they are not toxic, but because they are also so long in this toxic culture, they think it's normal for me to talk to you on the weekend. So like I said, have manners, be professional, explain to them right? If let's say your boss is toxic and be like, I don't care if you got a family gathering, this is important. Again, what do you want? If you want to stay for the long term, you have to be firmer and you have to, basically educate your boss. But like again, you only can do all this if you yourself are a good and efficient staff. Because if you're good, trust me, your boss also don't want to mess with you. They want to keep you. But you cannot be the kind of staff that I just go to work, I just do what I have to do, I go home, and then why not promoted? Or why everyone is so toxic? So again, it all boils down to this one. What is your objective at the company? Okay, if everyone is so toxic, right? Find somewhere else while you're here. Go look around. Okay, go look around. You don't have to stay with this company unless there is something in it that you really want. Like again, like their name on your CV. You really want that, you have to put up with it. But always tell yourself, this is training ground. This is a training for me. When my boss is here nasty, next time when I become a boss, I know what I should do or I shouldn't do, right? I know how to appreciate my future bosses. So that is how to deal with toxic people at the workplace. Again, like I mentioned, don't be rude, be professional. Try to build rapport with them. Try to take and give a bit. Don't be so strict also. Okay? And most of all is you need to educate them. You must let them know that you cannot push me around, but in a nice way, right? If they ask you, oh, can you come drinking and everything, join them for the first 2 rounds. Don't straight away say no, and then after that say, okay, I actually can't. I'm allergic. You can give some reason, like you don't have to tell the truth in this kind of things. But at the end of the day, right, you have to be firm but professional and try to. Most important thing is build rapport with people. People like to be nice to people that they like, right? So if you choose to not build any relationship at work, and when you deal with toxic people, you're going to struggle more because this person have no connection to you. So they don't need to, they don't need to help you or do anything. So when you build a relationship with them, it helps. Okay? So now that this is done, let's move on to family. Okay. So how do we deal with toxic family members? This is it's quite a difficult subject because we are very emotionally tied to family, obviously, right? So again, make it very simple. In everything we do, we must have an objective. So this objective is pretty straightforward. What is the objective for having for family is to have good relationship, right? That is what you want. When you talk about dealing with toxic family members, you want to achieve a good relationship with your family members, correct? That is the objective. Now, when you want to achieve this, what are the how do I say? What is the investment on your part? Okay, so for your part is what? Time. I would say mental health, obviously, and let's say money. Now, let's say you want to build a good relationship with your parents, but they are, let's say, toxic. They are toxic parents. So you have to make a lot of effort on your part, right? Because at the end of the day, what you want is a good relationship. Because good relationship with your parents actually affect you emotionally and mentally, and it affects your performance at work and in your personal life. Because when there is any bad relations in your life, it does affect you. It does affect you, like I mentioned, physically, mentally, and even physically. Because when you are mentally affected with bad thoughts and bad emotions, it affects your physical outlook because you also don't want to do things and you become depressed, and there's a whole pile of stuff lah. Okay, so objective for family, right, is you want a good relationship with them. Okay, so what are the things that come from your end is time, your mental health, and also money, right? When we talk about parents. So now the thing is, how much do you give? How much of this must you give to achieve this? Okay, so you need to sit down and ask yourself, again, just like the one I talk about work, how much do you actually have to give back? Do you have to see them every weekend? Do you have to pay for everything? Are they constantly putting you down? So again, how much of this are you giving? And then it's time to educate. Now the thing is, educate. So now the thing is, parents, parents will always look at you as a kid, regardless of how old. You could be like 50 and they will still see you as their kid, right? So when we grow older, we need to educate them, just like how we educate our bosses and colleagues. We don't have to be nasty. For example, if let's say your parents want something from you, want you to pay for something expensive, talk to them, say, hey, mom, you know what? I know that you count on me to pay for this, but I have my own things that I have to take care of. I see what way I can help, but I cannot cover everything. So you are being the responsible adult now. You are explaining to them. Of course, to them, they will just think that no, 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 you are my kid lah. If you don't love me, you won't pay for me lah. So when they say things like this, what happens? We get very emotionally upset, right? When they say things like, oh, if you don't pay for me means you don't love me. Why you cannot take care of me? I've been taking care of you for how many years? Blah, blah, blah. So the thing is, it's quite difficult to do, but you actually have to put, again, yourself in a neutral standpoint, right? You think to yourself, okay, this person is being very emotional right now, and whatever I say cannot get through to them. So there's a few options you can take. Number one, you just tell them, mom, maybe I talk about this later. Because one thing about family members, comparatively to workplace, family is very emotionally driven. So when you are facing a lot of negative emotion at the time, don't feel that you have to solve it at that particular point. You can put it off. In family, where are they going to go, right? So you can just tell them, can we talk about this at a different time? So it gives you time to actually calm your emotions, and it gives them time to calm their emotions so that you can bring it up at a later point. Okay? So again, other than educating them, so as time goes on, when you educate your parents by telling them certain things about yourself, that they don't see you as a kid anymore, and you hope that they understand. So again, educating them also comes back to this. How much time do you have to take to educate them? How much mental health is being affected by you having to constantly educate them? How much money is going into this? Okay, so again, how much effort do you put into getting this in order to educate them? All right. So at the end of the day, right, of course, you can't build Rome in a day. You cannot expect your parents to suddenly be not toxic, right? So put in this effort. Maybe if you have siblings, you ask them to work with you, or have relatives like auntie and uncles, you get them to work with you. So, okay, so the question is, how long do you keep doing this, right? Again, especially parents, when they get older, they are stuck in their ways. So there are some people that there's two options only. Either you deal with it or you don't deal with it. Or you deal with it halfway, right? If you can still sort of maintain a relationship where it's not too close and not too far, that would be perfect, because you're still in their lives and everything, but you're not mentally exhausted. But okay, obviously, if you can fix the relationship and also get them out of these toxic traits, that will be amazing. But at the end of the day, if you really can't, it is okay. There's nothing wrong with stepping back, right? You have educated them, you have spoken to them, you have talked to them, you have spent time with them, and if you feel that it's going no place and it is draining your resources, draining your time, draining your mental health, draining your money, then you can step away. There's nothing wrong with that, because at the end of the day, you can still respect and care for your parents without having to kill yourself in the process. All right, so educating them and everything. So if let's say you're in a situation where you feel like you want to step back but you are staying with them, so what can you do? Okay, so again, with the objective is, right, first the objective was to have a good relationship. So now that you know that you can't maybe stay with them any longer, right, then you have to move into this mode where you are starting to save up funds for yourself to actually move out. Because sometimes you may realize that your relationship could actually improve if you are actually staying somewhere else. Because sometimes when you're staying with them, it's very hard to get a break. It's like constant, like I mentioned, constant relations with a toxic person, or you're constantly in a toxic situation, so it can be very exhausting for you. So if you know you have to get out, that's where you start to save, start to find ways to actually move out of your house. Please do not run to your partner, let's say your boyfriend, girlfriend's house when this kind of things happen, because it's very sensitive, because they are not your complete partner, and it can get very messy. So unless you have a long-term girlfriend boyfriend and the family is wonderful to you and you have that opportunity, by all means I believe you can go. But like I mentioned, it'll be good if you can go on by yourself. You have that mental health, you can save money and actually move out. All right. So like I mentioned, that if let's say you're still stuck there and money is a bit difficult, one of the things that you can do is you can set boundaries. Okay, so how do you do that is, you have to take away your emotions sometimes. So when your parents say things like, oh, you don't love me, why you don't do this and everything, just tell yourself, that these are toxic traits. Maybe they cannot help it, but I'm not going to let it affect me. To hear a parent say things like, oh, you don't love me, that's why you're not doing this, and it's very painful for a child. So you should, just take a breather, tell yourself, mom, that it's not true. That it's not true. Okay, that I love you, but I told you I can't, if I can help in other ways. So again, educating your parents. It is possible. And after a while, like I said, this is what you only use to protect yourself in terms of you want to actually save up and move out, but you use this information, use this method to kind of like, give some distance already. Because if you just constantly giving in to them, trust me, you will burn out, and it may end in a very ugly argument because you have already reached your maximum, level and point. Okay. So in terms of family, if you have any questions on how to deal about family, you can ask me. If not, I'll be moving on to friends. Okay. So now that we've covered family, right, let's go to friends. Okay. Feel free to ask any question about toxic family members. I can still answer them, or work also. Okay, coming to friends, obviously the objective once again. I always talk about objective when it comes to dealing with toxic people, because at the end of the day is, what do you want to achieve, right? What do you want to maintain? So with work, is either it could be promotion, doing well, obviously, getting paid more. With family is a good relationship. So now we talk about friends. So same thing. What do you want when you are dealing with friends, right? Of course, it's the relationship. You want a good relationship with your friends. So now a lot of people always say, oh, nowadays very hard to get genuine friends, very hard to get good friends. They're all like fake, they all like, they have they're not true blue friends, they're not like last time. So okay, so how do you get true blue friends, right? First of all, you yourself also have to be a true blue friend lah. So okay, so the objective is relationship. Now if you notice your friends are being toxic, now again we look at the timeline. Has this person known you since like you were like 6 years old, or this person know you like 6 weeks ago, right? So why I talk about time frame is because you also know their character. Okay, like just now someone asked about how do people become toxic, and I mentioned it could be situation, it could be family, it could be quite a few factors. So let's say you know this friend for a long time, and this person has always been a relatively good person, all their life, and very good friends with you, but somehow during the teen years this person went through a lot, and after that become very toxic. Now, to you, if the relationship is important, you would help this person because you know what caused this person to become toxic. So you help them. And if you can't help them, bringing them to a professional is also, a way you can help them, because we can't solve everyone's problems, because we ourselves may not be good at it as well. So bringing them to a professional. So again, we look at timeline. When I say timeline, I don't mean the timeline of the worth of the friend. I mean that how much you can understand. Because sometimes we can meet someone 6 weeks ago and they could be really good friends with us compared to people we met like 6 years ago. Okay? So timeline basically is to understand that friend. Do you know if this friend is toxic somewhere in their life, something that caused it, something that triggered it? You can help them. Alright. So let's say this person is memang a toxic person from young lah. Okay? So because you know that from young, you can either tell it could be due to their family, or maybe this person is just toxic on their own lah. Okay, so if this person is toxic, again, what is your objective? You want to keep them as a friend. You feel that this person maybe can't help it, and you want to see this person become better. Again, just like the family, what are you investing your time, even money, effort and all this. So if your objective is to maintain a friendship with this person, right, you give those things. You give first because you are the better person and you want to help this person. So when you give all these things, right, you also talk to them. You educate them, you talk to them, you tell them, okay, you have to communicate with them. You have to tell them, for example, I notice sometimes you ask me to do this kind of things, and I notice that you have ulterior motive or something. Why do you have this? You listen to what the person has to say. If they realize it and they are apologetic, and they are like, I don't want to be this way, I didn't realize that I'm doing this, I really don't mean it. You tell them, okay, then it has to be a joint effort. We both have to help you improve. It cannot be you forever stay this way and then I'm the one doing everything, right? So do that. But if let's say this person is like, no, I'm not, where go, I'm like that, this is your problem. I don't know what's wrong. If this person displays too many toxic traits and they are constantly, not only displaying it, they don't even want to change, that is the point where you can ask yourself, if I spend too much effort and time, then maybe I should let this person go. Okay? But if you're willing to put up with it, which I don't recommend if it's too toxic, but if you are willing to, then it's on your call. But at what point do you walk away is when you do everything you can, and this person it is just not interested in improving themselves. They just feel that there's nothing wrong, that you are the problem actually. So that's where you can draw the line. And you can actually talk to them. You can actually tell them, don't ghost. Talk to them, especially if it's a long-time friend. Talk to them, you say, you know what, I've been your friend for so many years and I really enjoyed being your friend, but I don't understand why there's so many toxic traits, what's going on, and I don't think we can continue. Talk to them, even if it doesn't work out, it's actually good for your mental health because you have closure. Oh, okay. Hi, Lydia. I have a question. How to spend time with toxic people without being affected by them? That's a really good question. How to spend time? Okay. I believe you want to spend time with them because you probably enjoy being in their presence, right? And how to not be affected. Again, when you, for example, let's say, this could sound very bad, but let's say you're with a person who is, let's say, mentally challenged. Let's say you have a friend who's mentally challenged, okay? And when you talk to him or her, they will talk a bit strange, they will talk a bit strange, or their movement is a bit strange. But you ignore that, right? Because you tell yourself this person is mentally challenged, so they cannot help it, right? They cannot help it. So same thing with toxic people, that you probably you don't mind hanging out with them, but you don't want to get affected. You just tell yourself they are like this. Never mind. They are nasty, but I don't mind. Sometimes they are fun to hang out with. I can hang out. So again, if you just want to chill with them, you just want to hang out with them, you don't want to invest too much of your time and money, you treat them like, okay, I already know they're like this. Okay, I'll just ignore it. I'll do the things that I have fun with them. Don't make it your responsibility unless you feel that you are very close and you want to help them to change. That's when you step in and do all this. But if you're just, like hi and bye friends and everything, again, kind of you just tell yourself, this person is toxic. They will talk like this. They will say things like that. I'll just ignore it. I'll just focus on what we are doing. Like maybe we're having a makan, or we are playing bowling, or we are having fun. I'll just focus on the activity itself. All right. So, okay. So going back to friends, right? Dealing with, again, like friends is very similar to family, because friends are also friendship is very emotionally driven. So at the end of the day, like I mentioned, again, educate them, be there for them, but always give yourself a limit. When I say give yourself a limit, doesn't mean that you go and handle them until you have a breakdown and that's your limit. No, what I mean is that you are tell yourself, okay, how much do I do for this person, to the point that I have to go and until I have to go and talk to them, okay, and tell them how I really feel. Now, you don't talk to them only at the limit. You must talk to them earlier so that they have time to actually change. All right. Oh, okay. Another question. So accept that toxic is also on the good part. Yeah, only for friends that are not very close to you, right? If you see them once a while, you have fun, then just ignore. Yep. But if they are your close friends, and like I said, you want to help them to improve, then you have to invest. You have to invest in helping them to change. but like I said, at your limit. So, okay, going back to what I was mentioning, continuously communicate with them. And once you feel that there's nothing much you can do, have a chat with them and then let go the relationship. If you feel you reach your limit. Again, if this person is so toxic to the point that you feel that you, how I say, even can't even talk to them, right? Like they don't even want to talk to you. They're already showing you that they're not even interested. Then it's okay. You can just walk away. You can just walk away. But at the end of the day, if you want to have closure for yourself, yes, you can talk or maybe send them a message. But I really suggest that you don't ghost, because not only does this reflect poorly on you, it actually teaches you how to not handle difficult situations in the future. Because when you start to ghost, right, you will start to do this not only with your friends, your relationship, and your work, and it's actually not so good for you as a person, lah. You know, it's a bad trait, lah. All right. Okay. Finally, we're moving on to partners. Okay, so this is a bit of a, not exactly the same as well. First things first, right? You need to ask yourself, right, when it comes to partners, right? Do you notice the traits before or after? Do you notice that the toxic traits before or after? Now, why I say that is because you also know what caused them to do this. So some people, right, they try to hide it. You know, they try to show that they're another personality. Then when you marry them, everything comes out. Okay, so let's say let's say that case study lah. This person is completely different before and after, right? So of course you will feel tricked. And so again, what is the objective? Sorry if I mentioned. Objective is the relationship you want it to remain lah. Sorry. So, all right, maintain. Obviously, when it comes to marriage, you want to maintain the relationship. So when a person tricks you, obviously you feel that, why should I maintain it anymore? So first thing first, again, everything is about communication. You should ask them. I just want to ask, okay, how before we got married, how come you do this? Why you do this? You know, why are you different and everything? See what they have to say. What is the cause for it? Okay, see what is the cause. Okay, so if let's say if it's before you already know this trait, so then you want to go, okay, let's say we talk about before. So before already you know that they have these traits, and now again you want to help them. You can help them, but like I said, if it's taking too much on the toll for you, or maybe you just know that you don't have the capacity to help them in this kind of thing, get professional help, get people to come in and talk to that person, or do exercises that help this person to improve. Again, it depends on the other person as well. Is the other person open to change or trying to change, or just feels like, why should I change? There's nothing wrong with me, there's something wrong with you, you know? Of course, if it's that level of person, if the person is like, I can't even be bothered, you know, there's nothing wrong with me at all, then there's nothing much to talk about, because this is a very strange relationship. Why is she hiding this, or he or she hiding this character and then showing up after the relationship, right? So again, if it's after, it could be something that happened that caused this person to suddenly behave this way. Again, all open to communication. You have to communicate with your partner first. And like I said, if you don't have the capacity to handle it, you must get professional help, right? Don't try to, it's not your responsibility to solve everything if there's a problem, you know, because there's a reason why people are certified to help this kind of situations. All right. And also look at the pros and cons of your partner. Like I said, when I mentioned all the traits just now, right? If your partner was obviously having all these traits very strongly before you were married, and you still marry them, you have to look out for these traits, because these traits are going to stay, right? So of course, to the person also, they feel that, oh, I've seen everything, and you know what you're getting into. No, then why are you getting so shocked and everything? So when it comes to love, sometimes we cannot see certain things, right? So what I would definitely suggest is understand why they're having these traits, because sometimes as a person they could not realize that they are toxic. Talk to them, explain to them, when you do this, when you say this, right, it hurts my feelings or whatever, you know, or what you're doing is really not nice, how come you're doing this? So like people always say in marriages or friendships or actually anything, communication is key. But more so when you talk about a marriage, because you want to fix the thing, right? You want to fix this relationship. You want to maintain the relationship. Okay. And it's also important whether when do you have kids, does it affect the children? So there's a lot of factors to play in. But at the end of the day, right, you must highlight to your spouse and you must work with them to help them to fix their toxic traits. And I suggest don't fix everything at one go. Maybe list them down and focus on the key ones, the most things that really will make things difficult for your relationship. Look at those first. Say, hey, when you do this, do this, have exercises, practice fixing this situation. So for example, let's say negative, we talk about one of the toxic traits is negativity. So let's say your partner is a very negative person, is constantly negative. So you as the husband or wife understand why is this person so negative and actually point it out to them, because sometimes they are so naturally negative, they don't realize that they are being negative. To them, it's just a normal thought process. I'm not being negative. I just think it only, But actually, they are being negative. So you have to guide them. You have to do exercises with them, especially if you have kids, because you have to let them know this will affect your kids. If you think negatively too often, your kids are going to be negative, and that will affect their lives. So so all this communication, and again, seek professional help if you feel that you're at a point where you can't do it. But also tell the professional person, the person advising you, I'm here to 100% support my partner. Whatever needs to be done, we'll do it together. Because in a relationship, it's two people. You cannot expect that your partner to go to a professional and then you're like, hey, you're the one with the problem. You go to the professional. What's it going to do with me? Right? Okay, I think when we get married to someone, we also live closely with their bad characteristics. That's very true. You marry the whole package. You marry the good and the bad. And my suggestion, if you are not married yet, if some of the bad characteristics are something that is quite difficult for you to manage, speak to them. Speak to them about it first. Don't freak them out. Don't say, hey, if you have this bad characteristic, I don't want to marry you. Of course, you don't say it that way, but talk about it. And also, thinking about it, you as a person, do share your characteristics as well, toxic people tend to not realize that they have toxic traits and they think everyone else has toxic traits. So it's a good thing to actually communicate with your partner and talk about your negative traits as well, right? Okay, so I think for marriage partners, it's quite straightforward because I've already mentioned about work, family, and friends. So for partners, like I said, it's a bit tricky. My biggest suggestion is if they are your boyfriend and girlfriend, right? No matter how in love you are and everything, right? It is good to go for those marriage preparation courses. Why? Because in these courses, right, they will talk about things that you would not have thought of, or you didn't want, or you might, subconsciously didn't want to bring this up. So going for these classes before you get married, right, is actually a big eye-opener. A lot of people still get married after that. Don't worry, it's not like those classes that after that you don't want to get married, but it's good to have things out in the open, because the moment anybody in a relationship starts to keep quiet, right, it's very dangerous for the relationship. Okay, what is the good side of toxic people? What is the good side of toxic people? That is a very good question. Okay, the good side of toxic people. Yes, that is a difficult question. Let me think about it. Okay, like I said, right, each of us have those negative traits. There's nobody in this world have none of those negative traits I just mentioned now. It's just the percentage of it. Okay, so these people, right, again, like someone asked us now, these toxic people, they could have gotten it due to bad situations in their life or through, let's say, genetic from their parents. Okay, so sometimes I like to think of it as these people, they didn't choose to get these behaviors. They somehow got it. They didn't choose. They didn't say, hey, hey, I want to be negative. No toxic person ever goes, hey, I want to be negative. They probably got it from somewhere, and I feel it's very sad for them actually, because I can tell you for a fact, right, toxic people deep down are actually very miserable. they are actually not happy people, but they will not tell themselves that. But they are actually very unhappy people, because when you have too many negative traits in your life, it actually affects you. Not only just yourself. For example, when you are very negative, right, people will start to keep away from you. They will start to avoid you. They won't call you for things. I mean, obviously, nobody wants to call a negative person, right? A toxic person. So I have met some people in my life that are quite toxic, and you can tell that they are not happy. And when you are too toxic also, if let's say you have a spouse or a partner, that person also will not be happy. So I actually feel quite sorry for them. That's why I mentioned many times that if we can help them, we help them. But if they're too far gone and they are now draining the life out of you, you have to put a stop. So hopefully these toxic people, when they realize that they are too toxic and want to start to change, that is like something really beautiful, right? Okay, so yes, thank you for that question. I really had fun answering that question. So okay, so again, in terms of all this, the question is, most people will think is, at what point do I stop, right? In terms of work, family, friends, and partners, at what point, if let's say I can't help myself anymore, when do I cut the tie? Because that's the thing, right? So someone is toxic, I cut the tie. Someone's toxic, I cut the tie. So my suggestion is, nothing wrong with cutting the tie, but again, depending on who is the person, how long you are with them, how much of your time and effort you want to give to them, you only cut the tie when you feel that you cannot, it is affecting your mental health to the point where you are suffering from this relationship. That is when you cut the tie. But again, like I said, be professional in the way you cut the tie. Don't cut it to the point where you just ghost, or you tell the person, you shout at them. Do it nicely for yourself as well, for them and yourself as well. Because when you cut it professionally, you also educate them. You let them know, even though they might not react well to it, but they will know that you actually made the effort to tell them why you are cutting the tie. But again, if let's say it's your boss and everything, you don't need to talk so much lah. But this is more for the rest, like family and friends. Okay. That is to recognize how untoxic, kind-hearted we are. But I think your answer is better. You're welcome. Okay, so now we go to the most interesting part, which is discover. So what do I mean by discover is basically, how do we discover if we are toxic? Okay, so now nobody in this world will say, hey, you know what, I'm toxic, I'm a toxic person. Toxic people do not realize they're toxic. So the question now is, how do you know that you are toxic? Okay, so now we talk about toxic people, how to deal with them and everything. The question now goes back to ourselves. Okay, how toxic are we? Okay. So I actually got ready a few questions. Okay. So I'm gonna ask a few questions, and then you see if you fall under this. If you fall under this, then you are a bit quite toxic lah. Okay. So the first thing first is basically, right, when you are with people. Okay. When you are with people, how often do you dominate? How dominating are you when you're with friends, family, wherever? Okay, as long as you're with people, how dominating are you? And when I say dominating, I mean, like, for example, like when you're having a conversation, are you the one talking all the time? And are you always talking about yourself? Or when you go to places, are you the one always choosing where to eat? It basically, is it about you constantly? Is it about you? Okay. Okay, bear in mind, right? I know that there are some introverts and there are some extroverts. Okay, just because you talk about yourself a lot doesn't necessarily mean also that you're a toxic person, but you see the situation. What I mean by constantly talking about yourself means, if let's say you're talking about your experience, and now your friend tells you, like, okay, let's say you say, okay, I went to Bali, I had this awesome holiday, blah, blah, blah. So your friend waits until you're finished so she can tell her story of going to Bali. But when she talks, you cut her, you interrupt her, and then you go on and on and on until you start talking about totally nothing to do with the Bali trip, and she doesn't have a chance to talk. And let's say if you do let her talk, do you actually listen to what she's saying? Do you actually listen to what is her experience? Or you're just like, can you finish her? In your mind, you're like, you finish her. So again, one of the ways you can tell if you are toxic is how much do you dominate conversation, dominate ideas, dominate anything in a group. Are you the kind of person that if you're in a group of friends, if someone you don't like in the friend, do you go make sure everyone else also don't like that person? So that is a toxic trait. Okay. Next thing is when you're wrong. This is a bit hard to talk about, but when you're wrong, okay, do you think that do you actually step back and think, okay, did I make a mistake? Or you're just like, no, and no way, nope, it's definitely, I do not make mistakes, that's not my fault. So a lot of blame shifting. Alright, let's say you're late for something, you're like, it's everyone else's fault except myself, or let's say you forgot to bring something, if someone distracted me. So ask yourself, whenever you make a mistake, right, do you say sorry first or do you blame something? So let's say again, you left out the let's say again you are the person who left out the milk, okay, someone told you, hey, the milk is spoiled now. Do you say, oh, so sorry, I didn't mean to leave out the milk? Or do you straight away say, no, that person called me, distracted me, this one happened, I was raining, do you do this a lot? So that is a toxic trait, blaming others. And if let's say you are wrong, is it hard for you to apologize? Is it hard to apologize? So these are toxic traits, all right? Okay, so another interesting is you like to create drama. You actually love drama. So let's say you are hanging out with some friends and everything, and you like to wow, let's not talk about this thing, let's talk about that, and it's very dramatic. You like it, you like the drama, or like let's say you're arguing with your girlfriend and it gets louder and you open the door, you rush out and you get angry. You like all this kind of things, drama. So that is actually quite a toxic trait. You like to be very dramatic in everything you do, and normally this dramaticness tends to be negative, not a positive drama. And if you watch most Korean drama, or you watch any soap opera drama in general, or drama in general, they are always negative, right? They tend to circulate around bad things. So if you like to create drama, it's one of the toxic traits. Okay, so again, you can sometimes see this in some relationships, or you can see this in yourself, so that's not a good trait. Okay, so in terms of your relationships, how long or short is your relationship? When I talk about relationship, I mean not only just boyfriend, girlfriend, it could be also friends and everything. Do you have new friends constantly? Like none of your friends can stay long. Okay, or do you feel that you like to argue with them a lot? There's a lot of arguments and a lot of things. So if your relationships are always constantly very short, that these are ways you can tell that you are showing toxic traits lah. Okay, and do you criticize? Do you criticize people? And when you do criticize them, do you think because you are better than them? Right? When you tell someone, so I'm not saying that friends cannot help each other, cannot advise each other. So when you give someone advice, let's say you're telling them, oh, I think you shouldn't eat so much. Are you telling them this because you are genuinely worried for their health and you feel that if they do not eat better, that they could put themselves in danger? Or because you feel that, I can control how I eat, why you cannot control how you eat? So what is your thought process? So actually, all the traits I mentioned just now at the beginning, if you feel that you have most of those traits, then yes, I'm so sorry to say you are toxic. So things like negative thinking, when you're with your friends and everything. And another thing is when you are with your friends, remember when I say you're dominating the conversation, do you feel that most of the time what you say is very negative? Like you love to talk about negative stuff. So for example, what do I mean by negative stuff? Right? Let's say you're enjoying a meal with your friend and you know that your friend and her spouse always argue, right? But for no reason, you will purposely talk about it. You will say, hey, I noticed that day, how's your husband? I know he don't like this thing, or I heard that day you argue with him. So you are purposely making the conversation negative. Or you say, or you share personal things, the day my boss, he's so terrible, blah, blah, blah. So you just love talking about bad stuff. And the moment people talk about nice, good things, you notice that you tend to, after that, pull back to negative things. So that is one thing that's not good. Negativity, criticizing. Okay? And now, this is a very interesting part of toxic people. Some of them like to play hero. What do I mean by play hero is, some toxic people, they like to act like they're very nice, that they care for you, but they just like the attention. Okay? So they like to play hero. They are not genuinely, they're good people, because why? When they do all the good things they do, has an ulterior motive. Like I mentioned, let's say I bring a lot of snacks to work and I share with everyone. Is it because I really enjoy giving people things, or do I like the attention? I like the way it makes, like I know I look better in front of everyone. I want everyone to like me, not because I really like, hey, I want to share. So wanting to share because you enjoy sharing, and or doing it because you want people to like you, that is ulterior motive. Like I mentioned, ulterior motive is what a lot of people, toxic people, like to do. Ulterior motive. So play hero is, how you can tell if you are playing hero or someone else is playing hero is, if you are playing hero means whenever you do good things, it's actually to benefit yourself, meaning that it makes you feel good. I buy you this thing because I know that I feel great, like I'm the one who give it to you, or but how I mentioned about play hero is because you will calculate every time you do something nice, right? You will calculate, so you will bring it up, you will remind people. Whereas someone, when they do it because they just want to do it, they just do it. That's it. All right. So playing hero is another thing that toxic people like to do, and you can tell because the moment they do something nice, right, they will expect some sort of payback. They will expect it. Okay. And going back to this, calculating good deeds. Calculating good deeds is basically what I mentioned about playing hero. And the last thing is, whenever you do anything, right, like I mentioned, okay, when we say the word selfish, I feel that all of us must have some level of selfishness in order for us to treat ourselves well, in order for us to progress well in life, and there must be some level of selfishness. Now, when I say some level of selfishness, the moment we go above that, it becomes toxic. All right? When we start to be so selfish to the point where everything we do and we say and everything is just for ourselves, our own benefit, right? That is a very toxic trait. So again, like I mentioned, there's a few things here to tell. If you are a toxic person, is if you dominate most of the questions, when you're wrong, you don't like to apologize, you like to create drama, your relationships are short. So somebody asked me just now, about toxic people, right? Whether any good points to them. What I wanted to say is that when they have all these characteristic traits, right? Like I mentioned, this is why they are miserable. They're actually miserable people when, for example, it's impossible if you are talking and thinking negatively all the time that you are truly happy. Because why? Even if you can be happy, you yourself will turn that situation into a bad situation because of your negative mindset. That is why there's a lot of training about how to have positive mindset, because it is also quite easy to have a negative mindset. Like I mentioned, we can have all these characteristics, right? And it can still be normal as long as it doesn't go above a certain percentage. If it goes above, that's when you need to get help, right? So the question is, how do you stop yourself from being toxic? Number one, never mind, let me write it down here. Okay. So the most important thing that we would like to talk about is how to stop being toxic. Number one, you have to spot, you have to actually know what negative traits you have. Remember I mentioned there were so many negative traits. Write down your negative traits. Write down what is the thing that makes that you know that, write down your toxic traits. Are you negative? Is it hard for you to apologize? Do you feel that you do things to get your way? Write all of this down honestly to yourself and look at them, all right? And then tell yourself, right, what can I do first? So normally I would suggest that most commonly for toxic people, is they have a negative mindset. Try to change this one first, because this is the one that kind of snowballs into the rest. So negative mindset really plays a huge role in the rest of the toxic traits that you want to get rid of. So spot your negative traits first. Okay? Go after them one by one. Don't go and change everything. You will feel overwhelmed and nothing's going to happen. Go after them one by one. And number 3, get help. It can be help from your spouse, your family, your friend. It can be anyone. It can be professional. So basically it can be friends or professionals. Basically friends, family, everything. Get help, because sometimes, like I said, if you do it alone, sometimes it may be more difficult. And not only getting the help, right? Another key thing is to get their feedback. Bear in mind, when you ask your family or friends or whatever for feedback about whether you're toxic, right? Don't ask only one person. Don't go and ask a person that you know is not gonna tell to your face, going to say, oh no lah, you're great, like, there's no problem with you. Try to ask people who you know are more logical, more neutral, and tell them that you would like an honest answer, because you are now in a stage of you want to make yourself better. Ask them, when I'm with you, do I always talk about myself? Do I make you feel uncomfortable? Do I make you feel tired after hanging out with me because of the things that I say? Hear all this out, okay? And then write it down and match it back to what you feel is your your toxic traits versus what they are saying about you. And then tell them that you are looking to improve yourself, and ask them how they can, or you can suggest to them, do you mind if I'm talking too much about myself? Can you just let me know, and I will slow down. So you not only get help from them, but sorry, it's the balik lah, but basically you want to get their feedback first, and then you get help from them, right? So these are here are some of the steps you can help yourself to stop being toxic. But actually the main thing I would say, that like what someone asked just now, the main thing for toxic people is that the moment you recognize that you're toxic and you want to do something about it, that is the best step you can take. Because like I mentioned just now, toxic people will never admit that they're toxic, and they normally are happy with the way they are. They think they're fine. So the fact that you can ask yourself and think to yourself that, hey, I think I'm toxic, I think I should do something about it, that is the best thing to start with. Because the moment you recognize that you are toxic, then you can get help. Because if you still think, so if you're not sure how toxic you are, and then do talk to, like I said, do get feedback. Do get feedback from a few people. And if you have a close friend, family member or spouse, sit down with them and talk to them and ask how you can actually change and what you can do. And vice versa. If you feel that they are the one that's toxic, you do the same. You be there to support them and everything, right? So we reached the end of our live, and do follow me to get updates on the next live. Bye guys, I had so much fun. Thank you guys for your support. Thanks for all the wonderful questions. Take care. Ciao.
Looking for training? Want it fast and simple? At Quorse, you can find the best training available from dozens of training providers right at your fingertips. Just type in what you're looking for, and you will immediately see the list of courses that matches your search. Something still missing? No worries. We've got that figured out for you. Refine your search further by using our filters that look into your training budget or location and more. You can even organize a private class for your employees. View any course content of your choice and check out the reviews from those who have attended. Like to know the trainer of the course you selected? No problem. Our trainer profiles come with a quick video introduction just for you. So whether you're from HR searching courses for your organization or a business owner looking to learn at your own pace, there is definitely something for everyone. Web development, creative communication, leadership, and many more. Quorse is made ready for you anywhere, anytime. Browse for courses at work, or at your favorite hangout, or even by the beach. Experience it for yourself. Just search for us at Quorse.com.